I am about to finish my second trimester. This is my second pregnancy, and there are just so many things that I wish I knew ahead of both of these pregnancies. So I'm here to share with you some insights and things that have helped me along the way, and things that I wish I knew ahead of time, things that you can avoid and just make your pregnancy experience overall better.
So everyone calls the second trimester the golden trimester. Was that actually true for you, or do you feel like that's a little bit of a myth?
The second trimester for me in both pregnancies was definitely the sweet spot, and everybody will tell you that, and I fully agree. So my pregnancies have been very similar. I'm having a girl, which I also had a girl on my first pregnancy. So I think that there is some variance if you're having a girl versus a boy, or if you're having twins, obviously. So every pregnancy will be a little different. But for me, my script, playbook, whatever you want to call it, was pretty much the same. So from a trimester breakdown, I would say the first trimester, the first 6 weeks, you pretty much feel like yourself. You've got this secret inside of you that you can't tell people, but there's nothing really changing on the outside. And so you kind of go about your business in a pretty similar manner to, before pregnancy. Then all of a sudden, weeks 7 through 13 in the first trimester, they are not for the faint of heart. You are tired. I did not have any morning sickness, but I did have food aversions and just a lot of things that I was struggling with. And I think most women at this phase are struggling because they can't tell people why they're too tired to go to dinner with their friends. They can't tell people why they aren't fitting in their clothes. They can't tell people why they might be hugging the toilet but still having to show up for work every day. And I think that that's probably one of the most trying parts of pregnancy, when you're just at this point where you can't even explain to people everything that's happening inside of you. So the second trimester is this turning point, right? So you're gonna cross into that around 13, 14 weeks, where suddenly your energy comes back. You are feeling a little bit better about the foods. I used to get this weird metallic taste in my mouth that went away at week 14. So it made, just making choices about food easier on me. And then for most people, they are going to clear some pretty important tests, and the odds of miscarriage go down significantly at this point. So now you're in a safe place to tell people that you're pregnant if you are comfortable with that. So typically around 13 weeks is when people will announce. And then it's like this weight off your shoulders, because now you're like, okay, everybody understands why I've been tired. I haven't been responding. I haven't wanted to go out, or just, why I'm getting bigger. And now you get this cute little bump, and you start to style the bump. And so the second trimester is all the feel-good things. And I remember with my first pregnancy feeling really good energy-wise until about week 30. And then week 30, not gonna sugarcoat, it hit me like a ton of bricks. So safe to say right now at 27 weeks, I am enjoying this time, knowing that it's gonna get a little bit harder to move. I mean, it's a fact of life. You get bigger. I remember the moment in my last pregnancy when I couldn't bend down to tie my shoelaces anymore. I had to ask my husband for help. Sleeping becomes uncomfortable. I'm already at this point where I have to pee constantly. So I'm, waking up 1 or 2 times a night, and you get these Charlie horses in pregnancy. The list just goes on and on and on. But the second trimester is when you're definitely going to be feeling your best. So let's get into what things I'm doing trimester to trimester, and what I really think helps you feel great during those, golden weeks of the second trimester.
So are there any decisions that need to be made during the second trimester that most women don't realize are pretty urgent?
My first pregnancy, I did a lot of things at the last minute, and this time around, I'm definitely more prepared. So second trimester decisions that I would focus on are: who is your pediatrician going to be? I live in Los Angeles. I, work within the Cedars-Sinai network. We have great doctors, but some of those great doctors are really booked. So you can't just call a pediatrician and say, hey, I'm having a baby, and necessarily get in with them. So that's something you would want to maybe ask your OB or your friends for a referral. So you find a pediatrician that's aligned with your values and that can take on your child, because right after you give birth, that pediatrician is going to be in the hospital checking on your baby. So you definitely want to get that squared away ahead of time. Something that I'm doing different this pregnancy, and I looked into it on my first pregnancy, I wasn't completely sold on it. This pregnancy, I am sold on it, is I have hired a doula. And, that's a very personal decision. Plenty of women have babies without doulas. I had my first daughter without a doula, but I feel like my labor could have been a bit easier and more in alignment with what I wanted if I had a doula in the room to advocate and help me through that labor. So what exactly is a doula? A doula, because I had never really figured this out. Many of them will help you with all aspects of pregnancy. Like my doula is going to come to my apartment before I have the baby, kind of check in on me and my husband and make sure that we have this sort of birth plan and goals and understand what I really want. Because there are some women who are like, hey, give me an introduction. And there are some women who are like, I want to have a natural birth. I want to have a C-section. So everyone's got their own things that they, have in mind. The doula will help you accomplish those goals and then be there to support you in the labor, which I learned is just everything. And I'll dive deeper into this, further down the road when we get into my labor and those video topics. But I think that if you know that you want to have a natural birth, which is what I had the first time, you don't want to use a lot of medication, then a doula might be the right fit for someone like you. So that's why I have hired a doula for this pregnancy.
Does that also help any senses of your mental health and emotional health as well when it comes to the support that you're getting?
When you are pregnant the first time, you do not know what to expect. You can watch every video on YouTube. You can read every Instagram post, you can ask friends, but nothing is going to prepare you for the experience until you are actually in it. And I think that that's where having a doula will help you mentally just feel comfortable. Like I feel much better going into this round, knowing that I have a support person, but also knowing that I have the personal experience under my belt so I can navigate the hospital and things like that based on my past experience. So I think that labor is something that mentally people are afraid of, right? And when you have that fear in your head and you go into the hospital, and if your goal is especially to have a natural or unmedicated birth, and you go in it with fear and then you get rushed in the hospital or things happen, like in my case, I had a plot twist. My water broke. So I was thinking I was going to labor at home, had this whole birth plan, I had the hospital bag packed. And, my daughter broke my water late at night. We rushed to the hospital. It added an element of chaos to my birth. And my doctor didn't come in until almost 12 hours after I got to the hospital. I was like, where is this doctor person who's supposed to be helping me? I had some nurse I had never met before. We kind of butted heads a bit. So I think that if you go into your labor with that extra stress in your mental state on top of what your body is going through, which is bringing life into this world, you are going to have a harder time with labor. And, at the end of the day, the goal is always to have a short labor, no tearing, and just minimal impact on your body so that you can recover and take care of your baby.
What do you feel like you were worried about in your second trimester from your first pregnancy that was just a breeze during this one?
I think with my second trimester in my first pregnancy, there's so much more work involved with getting all of the products. It's like, okay, I'm having a baby shower. What do I put on my baby registry? And I just kind of went on the list and checked all these things off, but I didn't know any of the brands. I didn't know which one was superior to the others. And, if you start talking to moms, they're like, which stroller do you have? There's the Nuna, the Doona. You're like, wait, the Nuna, the Doona, are they the same thing? No, they're different. This one you can travel with, that one you can't. So when you are exploring all of these products, there's so many products out there on the market. You obviously want the best for your baby. Some of them are quite expensive. So it's like, do I splurge and get the $700 stroller, or will the $400 stroller cut it for me? So there's just so much to research out there. I think what's interesting being a 2026 new mom versus a 2022 mom is now you can go on ChatGPT like I did it the other day. I had to buy my dog a stroller, and I was like, hey, I need a wagon type of stroller that I can, put my kids in to travel through the airport, whatever. I need it to be TSA compliant. It has to collapse, and ChatGPT just ranks them all for you, gives you the pros and the cons. So that's a pretty cool benefit that we have being in 2026. And you should absolutely use it to price things out and figure out what's going to meet your family's needs. But I think the beauty of a second pregnancy is all of that stuff is there. It's assembled, the brands, what you need. So I'm just, adding some new things into my hospital bag. I've changed some of my supplements, but the products and the baby things are all already here. Obviously, if you're having a baby that's a different gender, you might have to do some color swaps, but I'm having two girls. So literally, I just saved everything from my first daughter that's going to just get, passed down to my second daughter. So that's a big relief when you're on pregnancy number 2.
And how do you prepare your first daughter for the new baby coming into the world?
My daughter has been asking for a baby sister since before I got pregnant, which is a blessing. So she's wanted this and embraced this. I think that the age gap that I have is really great. I give all of the credit to moms that have like two under two, because I personally was not ready for that. But my daughter is in preschool now and she sees a lot of her friends at school having baby sisters and brothers. And so I think that helped her want to take on the big sis role. So we've been just kind of preparing her, saying, baby sister's coming. She looks at my belly, she kisses it, it's super sweet. And she says, Mommy, your belly's getting so big. The baby's getting so big. So she's genuinely excited. And I tell her, you're going to help me with the bottles, you're going to help me push the stroller. And I think that the important thing is just always making sure that your first child knows that they're still obviously super important to you. Give them a lot of attention. My daughter is enrolled at a summer camp at her school, which I think will be beneficial for her to be out of the house, which is also a nice benefit of the 3.5 year age gap. So I think, sometimes you hear about this sibling jealousy, and it's just this natural phenomenon when the older child feels like they used to get all of the attention and now the new baby's getting it. So I think that keeping my daughter busy with some of her activities that she loves will be beneficial, just so that she's not feeling like mommy's focused on the new baby and not me.
Going more into the nutritional side and health aspects, how do you maintain that, specifically your iron levels?
I eat pretty healthy and clean, which I think the majority of the people out there sadly do not, right? I mean, if you look at the fast food culture or just people who don't understand how to read nutrition labels, like I'm always amazed, and I think it's easy to be duped by these companies because they target you and they say, clean ingredients, organic, all natural. But then you dive into the labels and there's cane sugar, added sugar, there's artificial this, that. And so what some of the food companies get away with is pretty crazy. So you might think you're eating something healthy, like, oh, I'm putting this protein powder in, but the protein powder or the protein bar has 18 grams of added sugar. Why? So I have become way more aware of checking labels and my food sources this pregnancy. I think that also as I become more educated on what pregnancy foods are superfoods and what foods you should avoid, I've integrated some of them into my diet a little bit more, such as, they say kiwis are great at night for pregnant women. They say dates are great for women. There's just certain things. Coconut water is good for you. So some of these things I've just kind of incorporated more heavily into my diet, making sure you hit your protein goals, making sure you hit your fiber. Fiber is super important when you're pregnant. Everyone focuses on protein. Fiber is also really important. I have struggled personally with iron. I was a little iron deficient in my first pregnancy. In the third trimester, my doctor had me go on iron supplements. This time around, I tried to be more proactive about it. So I started the iron in the first trimester. The second trimester, I have the iron paired with vitamin C because it's supposed to help with absorption. So I'm thinking, okay, this pregnancy, I'll be fine. I proactively lab test myself. So besides the labs that the doctor's office will do for you, I just ran a full blood panel on myself through a company called Superpower. And, a lot of my levels were out of whack, and iron was one of the standout ones. It's super low. I feel it every day. I am getting out of breath, things that I used to be able to do, going up the stairs, doing, certain activities in the gym. I get out of breath a lot faster right now. And that is directly linked to my iron deficiency. So I'm always trying to cure that and, focus on the foods and the things that are going to help with getting those levels up. But I think it's something that you want to get ahead of as soon as you get pregnant, because I'm still trying to fix that deficiency. And again, I think I eat better than a lot of people out there. Like you see, pregnant women who just use this opportunity to indulge and eat all of these comfort foods, which sometimes I'm guilty of it too. You're going to go for them, but they should not be the majority of your diet, because it's going to show up, you're going to feel it in yourself. You're going to feel sluggish. And I think for your baby, it's just so important to give all those nutrients while they are growing and developing.
Are there any nutritional differences that you may need to be aware of in the second trimester that may differ from the first or the third?
I think as the pregnancy advances, the fiber again is super important. You will start to feel your digestion slowing down. I think another really important one is magnesium. So I've incorporated a lot more magnesium into this pregnancy. I take magnesium glycinate. It's supposed to help with constipation, with your sleep. I get these, I'm sure if you're pregnant watching this, you get the, that feeling. I get like Charlie horses and I get leg cramps. Like when I wake up in the middle of the night, if I move my foot too fast, oh, it hurts so bad. And the magnesium is supposed to help alleviate that. So magnesium, as the pregnancy advances, becomes more and more important because those leg cramps get really gnarly as the pregnancy goes on. So that'll help you with that. And again, the fiber and the nutrient dense foods versus foods that your body just struggles to break down in pregnancy. Like if I eat a sugary meal or a heavy carb meal, I will instantly gain weight. I will bloat. And, it's just not a fun feeling when you're already gaining weight that is out of your control. You're just kind of packing onto that.
When it comes to maybe your skincare or beauty routine during the second trimester, is there anything that you have to do completely differently from?
With my first pregnancy, I really struggled with melasma. So by the third trimester, I had crazy brown spots across my forehead. And truthfully, I am not a good sunscreen person. I know some people live by sunscreen. I live in Southern California. I'm out walking my dog. I'm constantly exposed to the sun. Personally, I think the sun is good for you. With pregnancy, your skin definitely weakens. So like 30 minutes of being in the sun, you may burn. Sometimes I'll get some redness here across my chest that, normally would not have happened in 30 minutes. So your skin is definitely more sensitive. With that being said, I was more proactive this pregnancy about doing pregnancy safe skincare and facials and maintenance. So once a month, I go for a pregnancy safe facial with extractions and some, skin boosting things that I think are helping keep the melasma at bay. Melasma is also hormonal, so sometimes you just can't escape it. I do have a lot of brown spots on this side of my face. They're currently hidden with a little bit of foundation, but it's challenging because you can't do things that you normally would do. So after pregnancy, I will resume doing like an IPL laser to get rid of some of the brown spots and redness in my skin. Can't do that right now. I don't do Botox. Botox is like my one guilty pleasure thing that I do a couple of times a year. So you can see these lines are coming in here. As soon as I stop breastfeeding, we will address those. But other than that, I think the foods you eat, drinking enough water, those will show up on your skin as well. And you do get the pregnancy glow. So I do hear that often from people, you're glowing, you're glowing. So there's a perk to being pregnant. You, I think, take a lot of vitamins. My hair is growing a lot faster. So all these supplements and things that you take will pay off at least.
How do you handle the weight gain conversation throughout the second trimester, and how did that change how you felt physically and emotionally?
I am really hard on myself. I love being fit and I love having abs. And I recognize that this is a beautiful time in my life and I'm not supposed to deprive myself or my baby of what we need calorie wise, nutrition wise. But that being said, my biggest pet peeve right now is when I see people and I'm in the second trimester and they see me and they say, "You're getting so big. Your belly is getting wow, oh my God, your butt is getting so big." These are things you should never say to a pregnant woman. And I don't know who didn't get that common sense book. I fully recognize I actually weigh myself every day. So I'm very in tune with how much weight I'm gaining. And I'm mentally okay with it. I don't have any body dysmorphia or issues like that, thank goodness. But it is always nice when you see a pregnant woman and you say, "You look fantastic. You're glowing. You look great." Like there are ways to say that without coming at a person who's sipping their morning coffee and saying, "You got so big." So that's one thing in the second trimester that I'm like, I just bite my tongue and say, "Yeah, yep." I'm 27 weeks pregnant, but I wish some people had a little bit more common sense when it comes to that.
Is there something that you've done during this pregnancy that you think most people would judge you for, but you stand by completely?
There's definitely a couple of things I do that people will question me on or just kind of look at me funny. I do share a lot on my Instagram. So day to day, I'll post on my stories. I've been playing pickleball, I've been playing tennis. My own husband was like, "Do we really need to be playing pickleball right now?" And I did learn that if you were to rank like three sports that are super popular right now, tennis, pickleball, and padel. I've never played padel. Padel's probably the one where you're going to get injured the most from what I've learned just from talking to different people who are involved with that. Pickleball, you may have more of a chance of getting injured, especially pregnant, while your balance is off. And tennis is probably the safest of the three. So I've kind of decided to phase out the pickleball after I sprained my ankle and got some lovely bruising here that's taking a really long time to heal just as a byproduct of pregnancy. But I think that, some people might think that I'm overtraining or going too hard on myself in the gym, which to me is just a non-negotiable. Like if I don't go to the gym for a day, I mentally don't feel the same. So I work some kind of fitness into my life every day, and I know what's right for me, not the guy watching me on Instagram or the girl watching me on Instagram. And so what I do is I might go to the gym and do strength training one day. The next day, if I'm traveling and I'm by the beach, I'll go for a morning run, which makes me energized. The sunlight hits me in the face. I feel good. I get endorphins, and it's just an overall energy boost and positive feeling all around, right? So I think that there's this sense of pregnant women, shouldn't go too hard and they shouldn't lift and they shouldn't do things. And, what I keep reading more and more that you really shouldn't do is you shouldn't be constantly bending over. I mean, that's common sense, which is hard. I'm a toddler mom. I'm picking things up off the floor. I'm lifting my daughter into my car. Like there's some things I can't avoid. They say you should sleep on your left side and not be on your back once you're in the second trimester. So there's all these little things that I'm learning and being mindful of. And those pieces of advice that people share, especially like unsolicited, if I'm just learning about them because I'm educating myself, those are great. But I think when people are just throwing unsolicited advice at you and some of it is outdated or just doesn't apply to you, it can get really annoying.
Now that we're going to the third trimester, what is something that you are more prepared for now leading into the birth of your child that you maybe weren't?
I feel 1,000 times better about the birth process itself, having been through it once before, and also working with a doula. So my doula has, as part of her package, these Zoom sessions where we prepare for childbirth. And it's a mix of first-time moms and second-time moms. And the first-time moms were just on this Zoom call with me this week, and they were dying to hear about my birth experience. They wanted all of the details. They wanted to know what a contraction felt like and what to expect. And I was walking them through it. And the doula shows us videos of people actually giving birth. And I think that if you want to have a positive birth experience, it's smart to go on the internet and look up videos, say positive birth experience. You don't want to see the bad ones, right? Because if you get these negative thoughts in your head, it's going to make the birth process more challenging on you. But if you go into it prepared, and if you go into it with a plan, things will always, always, always change at the last minute. But I think having a general guideline of what you want and not letting the medical system bully you, because that is a thing here. And I'm learning more and more about it, especially in Los Angeles. This is a busy, big city. I deliver at Cedars-Sinai. I had a great experience with Cedars. But that being said, I think that there's a business side to a lot of the hospitals, and they want you to have birth on their schedule when babies want to come when babies want to come. Like my daughter broke my water. She was ready to get out. She was ready, and that was her moment. But if I listened to the hospital, they were trying to induce me a week before my daughter was ready to come out. So I think you have to be educated. You have to stand your ground in some of those choices. They had told me that my daughter was going to be, born probably like 8 or 9 pounds. She wound up being born in the 7-pound range, but they tried to, I think, use that as a scare tactic to get me to have an induction when I preferred to have an unmedicated natural birth because it suited Cedars-Sinai. And to further validate my feeling about that, after my daughter was born, I had an induction scheduled if I went over 40 weeks. I delivered my daughter at 39 and a half weeks. It's very common on a first pregnancy to deliver between 40 and 41 weeks. I think that's actually the average. So women our whole lives have been sold this lie that pregnancy is 9 months. I'm sure that's what you were told, and everyone watching this video heard pregnant for 9 months. No. You are pregnant for 10 months for the most part. And I had agreed with Cedars that if I went over 40 weeks that they could induce me. So 39 and a half weeks, my daughter was born. I asked the hospital if they were going to cancel the induction that was scheduled for 40 weeks. I said, no problem, we'll handle it all. You just go home and take care of your baby. I was sitting at home with my baby in my arms, and I'll never forget, I got a call from Cedars-Sinai, and they said, Miss Palante, we have to cancel your induction as the head of the maternity ward. Like, we're just so busy, and yours is not medically necessary, so is it okay if we push it out? And then I started to realize, like, my daughter's already home with me, so that's fine. You can cancel my induction. But was it ever really about what was best for me, or was it about what was going to work for the hospital? And I'll leave you with that.
What's one last piece of advice that you would give any pregnant woman that may be struggling through her first trimester in letting them know that it can get better in the second?
If you are in your first trimester, and especially if you're in your first pregnancy, I think that you wonder if the exhaustion will ever go away, if you'll ever want to eat regular food again, and just when this is going to turn around. And generally speaking, I think by week 14, you are going to feel a lot better. So just hang in there until week 14. When you are in that sweet spot, which I would say for me was weeks 14 through 29, my best piece of advice to you is to schedule as much fun stuff as possible. I just got back from a trip to Sedona. I took my toddler, I took my dog, and it was just super relaxing, beautiful. I'm not that tired yet. I'm feeling pretty good in my clothing. So it's a great time to get that baby moon in. Some people do maternity pictures. I did that for my first pregnancy. I think like probably around 27, 28 weeks is a good time for photos because you're like showing, glowing, feeling good, and it's a special time in your life that you want to capture. So I think that just pushing yourself, whether it's fitness-wise, you're going to feel your best in the second trimester energy-wise. If you want to take that trip, or if you want to book the photo shoot, that's the window where I would absolutely recommend it. And if you're like me, turning the corner, about to go into the third trimester, I am going to be putting out a lot more information that I wish people would have shared with me the first time, that just, I'm sure it's out there, but just didn't get to me. I'm going to share the ways I'm going to prep for labor, because I did do some holistic things to help my labor get going and to speed the labor up. So there were some things that I think really made a difference. I had a relatively short labor. It was 12 hours start to finish. First time moms can often be in labor for 24 to 48 hours. So you definitely want to get those tips from me. And I think that the hospital bag might have some new things in it this time. There's some new products and supplements and things that I'm loving. So I will make sure to update you with a full third trimester recap, and then following that, it will be getting ready for labor. So check out my blog, inthenojo.com. Drop me a note below. Let me know whatever questions you have on this video or what you'd like to see in the next one.